So how do you get a red passport, a green passport, and a blue passport? I call this as the RGB stack. A lot of people dream of this, adding all three colors to their portfolio. And I'm going to discuss the ways in which you can quickly add these. And this really stems from a poll that I had on my channel. I'm going to discuss that as well. But I'm going to discuss, and it's going to be a slightly lengthy video for the good reason. I'm going to discuss two options for rock solid hot red passports that you can immediately add to your portfolio. For one is a very cheap option, one is a citizenship by investment option. I'm going to discuss two green passports, real good green passports that you can immediately add. One you can immediately add and one takes a slight bit of time but is a near free option. And finally, I'm going to discuss three real strong blue passports that you can add fairly quickly to your portfolio. But before we get started and deep dive into this all important, exciting topic, if you aren't yet subscribed to my channel, make sure to turn on the bell notification and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest developments on any of the programs that we cover. All right, first let's look at the poll that I had on my channel. The intention was to understand from the community what's the hot passport, what's the dream passport, what's the next passport that they have planned. I'm obviously not going to read every single comment, but the ones that are fairly useful, I'm going to cover all of those. Now, first let's start off with William Borres. He talks about he has a Luxembourg passport and a blue Brazilian passport, both amazing, 100%. I think Luxembourg is an exotic one. Not many people have that. It's a very beautiful document, not only in terms of the looks, but in terms of the access, the respect. A lot of the times, the color and access is one thing. The respect is something that's often overlooked. When you have a highly respected passport, it really changes the whole dynamics of your travel, of your existence around the world, right? Brazil, again, is a very, very solid option. Hippie Trippy here says that my dream is to get one of those passports, okay? Red any day, red looks hot, has the risk factor you mentioned. And before we continue reading, the winner obviously, interestingly, was a red passport. I expected that. I think red looks hot. It has that Riz. I've covered this Riz topic in a lot of detail. A lot of my regular viewers must have already seen it, but if you haven't seen it, you can take a look at that video. It covers all the Riz options in my opinion. The Roybit says that moving to Argentina next year, hopefully getting a second blue one. And then a lot of people here, and this is an important one because a lot of people are concerned about the taxation situation, and some of them raised this. And his response is that I'm only going to be transferring the minimum amount of money necessary to live out there to a local bank, Western Union, which seems big with all locals. Some interesting insights by Richard here. He says that a local bank account is something that people beg to get rid of here, but they don't have a lot of options. If you can keep your foreign bank account, it'll probably be worth it, especially since foreign Visa cards get preferential exchange rates here. So interesting insights. A lot of our community members have a lot of valuable insights to share, enlightens everyone. We all don't have all the knowledge, practical knowledge, right? Important examples, experiences really contribute to the whole experience, and that is where our community truly matters. It's not just the videos or the information, it's about practical experiences and the realities put together. Also, a very important aspect of this channel is to uncover bad practices. Everything should be legal. And yes, you have tricks and hacks and stuff, but all those hacks and all those tricks and all those methods of obtaining benefits should be within the legal framework. Now, there's a lot of flexibility within the legal framework. You're playing with different countries, different rules. There's several things that can be worked. There's citizenship by exception. There are multiple options where you can legally do this, but you've got to do this correctly. There's no point doing things under the table. There have been some discussions surrounding certain controversial passports and stuff. Stay away from any of that nonsense. You'll get in big trouble. And we'll cover that separately, right? So let's continue here. Esgil says that Portugal is my next one, maybe Brazil and Mexico next. Patrick Wang says Portuguese passport, hopefully in 5 years. Interesting. So Portuguese is definitely in demand, red passport. Someone says Barbados, Brazil, Pakistan of all places. And then someone says he wants to stay with the US passport. Of course, if you want guaranteed access to the US, that's where your family is. Having visa-free access or getting visas in future is completely out of the question if you really want some kind of regular access to the US and you have a US passport. You want to hang on to that or get one if you're eligible. Someone asks, what do these colors even mean? And he thought he only had one color option in France. An interesting reply by Richard. Richard says every country has its own coloring scheme with different coloring colors representing different purposes. Each country sets their purpose, sets their color. Yes, it's a good explanation, right? That's how it works. But here we are talking about color preferences, right? We have a lot and we want the beauty, we want the charisma, the riz. So we talk colors here, right? All right, so this is interesting stuff, hearing people's opinions, what everyone thinks. Close to 150 participants actually voted in this poll. So don't miss out on my community polls. Make sure you're subbed and then also participate because your opinion, your voice matters. So make sure you fully participate on all our polls. Let's talk about the options now, right? So let's take red passports, right? And the two real interesting ones here, which can fairly quickly be accomplished. One of them is an instant citizenship. It's the Turkish CBI. It's a hot red passport. When you compare the respect to some of the other ones, it's a mix, right? You don't get everything all in one, but it does have certain interesting access. A lot of people don't like it anymore because of the price bump from 250 to 400k USD. It's not worth it for a lot of people, but what I do feel still is interesting. If you have the appetite or the risk-taking appetite to put in 500k USD, park those monies in your Turkish bank account, then you're looking at almost sort of a free passport. You eventually get the monies back. But that's assuming you have the risk-taking capability, right? You want to really get your money back. First of all, go to the country. It's a FATF grey-listed country. So talking a large volume of money putting into the country. Once you're done with the process, you really want those monies back. And there's an opportunity cost, right, of 5 years tying those capital. And then maybe for citizenship, you might have to wait for a year and a half. So you're talking about approximately 6 to 7 years parting way with your $500,000. But Turkey is an interesting one where immediately you can get that passport. Serbia is currently working its rule still. There is citizenship by exception where you can fairly get it, faster, sooner, right? Just like Turkey, you're looking at similar processing times. Citizenship by exception is a rare circumstances where, let's say, you open up a business. It could be sports, business, culture, art, any of those categories. But let's talk about investments, and let's say you invested a significant portion in Serbia. You set up the business in such a way, you're hiring some people, you're benefiting the local economy, you're creating substantial benefit. And when you talk about substantial benefit, you want to document all this correctly in the right style, right? The formatting, the style, the way you present it, the way you raise the value and explain how this is really benefiting Serbia is interesting. We have two solid attorneys in Serbia. And we often, talk to clients about this option. This is a hit or a miss, right? It's up to the discretion of the immigration authorities. You can only try your best and hope that this succeeds. What really helps is a good attorney who has the right documentation style, the legal language, the lingo, knowing what to put in your application based on what you're doing. So all of those expertise really play a big role in this, and then eventually it's all up to the immigration authorities. So Serbia is a solid, hot, red passport. The respect is higher, I feel, than any of the CBI options. It's a natural option. A lot of the Russians have been able to obtain the Serbian passport, some in mysterious circumstances, again not recommended. Any kind of corruption, any kind of under the table situation is not sustainable. Eventually there'll be investigations, and a lot of people have got themselves into hot water. Try to avoid any of that. Avoid any of that kind of stuff if you are thinking of that, right? Again, this is not legal immigration, any kind of advice. This is just educational content and my personal opinion. Our attorneys, of course, would guide you once you start any of these options. So those are the two hot solid red passports. let's discuss green passports. Now, the fairly quick, straightforward one is the CBI Vanuatu. I don't particularly like the price point, 130K. It works for some people. Again, there's been a dip based on the whole access to revocation matter, right? Lost literally more than half of, let's say almost all the valuable access, if you will, from that passport. So 130K, does that make sense? Well, I don't know. In certain circumstances, some people try to get it. But I feel if the bond option, right, the 99K or whatever they advertised, if that kicks in and they start issuing and honoring those bonds, yes, it's a risk. Let's say you lose the 99K. Even if you consider that, I think there's some hope, right? At least 25% hope that you'll recover everything back. Hopefully that works out, right? But then you're talking about an almost next to free passport. Then I think that becomes a very interesting option. Again, I'm in touch with a lot of ground level people on this one. Once there's any update, we would know, and then obviously we'll communicate as part of our advanced polls and chats. That's where we really have a smaller community, a more focused community. We discuss visa-free access, permutation combinations, and a lot of other stuff that really matters, insider stuff. So if you're not a member of the advanced polls and chats, then make full use of it. If you're a regular, if you have deep knowledge about this field, and if you are in the process of getting multiple options, it's always good to be an insider as well as obviously interact outside the community. So those are that is the Vanuatu option. The more natural, the more hotter, the more Riz option is the lush green Mexican passport. Now I've covered all the ways, including citizenship by exception in Mexico. Yes, there is a way to get the Mexican passport by citizenship by exception. There's also an immediate way. Immediate way is only under very limited circumstances. There's a law change to that immediate way that happened recently in Mexico. I've covered this whole thing in a lot of detail. If you have missed it, then definitely watch the video which I have. It's a recent video. And Mexico has a fairly flexible residency, and I've covered this numerous times. The flexibility of the Mexican residency initially is the beauty of it all. It's a low-cost option, so something that you can definitely take a look at if you're interested. And Mexico, in my opinion, is one of the strongest passports. It is much stronger, in my opinion, than, let's say, US, Canada, those passports, or even Australia, UK. It beats all of those because it has not only has the NAFTA option, right? The whole NAFTA treaties. It has access to Canada. It has indirect access to the US through the TN, but it also has APEC privileges. And I've discussed this extensively, why it is much stronger than US, Canada, UK, Australia. You can take a look at this video. And finally, let's talk about the hot 3 blue passports and beautiful blue passports. That is, one is Argentina. Let's say the simplest way of qualifying for Argentina is through residency, 2 years. You dedicate your time to Argentina and you're looking at an impressive nationality, a good solid citizenship, beautiful blue passport. Let's say you're earning $2,000 or more, then through the income route you can qualify, and qualifying income, of course, you can qualify for the residency, and then you live in Argentina for 2 years. If you want the permanent residency, is 3 years. Interestingly, Argentina, the citizenship can be obtained as early as 2 years. Now there has been some delays and stuff and some recent discussions about need of permanent residency before citizenship, but again, it all depends upon offices to offices. We target the best case scenarios, the best case office, and we work with the top attorneys. So that is something that you can keep in mind. So that's one option. Second option is Brazil, a beautiful, beautiful blue passport. The fastest way of getting a Brazilian passport is 1 year, and that is through childbirth. Let's say you're having a child in Brazil, then you have the benefit of obtaining this passport. You qualify for the permanent residency immediately, but then you can obtain the citizenship. You can apply for it after a year. There are 4 other ways of obtaining the Brazilian passport, and I extensively discussed this. We have 2 solid attorneys in Brazil that we interact almost on a regular basis. So if you're interested in obtaining the Brazilian option through birth, they specialize in birth as well as the regular 4 options. You can always reach us and we can get you started. And then finally, I think a very interesting, a very under the radar and very overlooked or underestimated kind of an option is the Dominican Republic. It's a flexible permanent residency for life, and it is not Dominica, the CBI program. It's a different country. It's Dominican Republic. It has some very safe pockets, and I really enjoy those safe pockets in that country. and in 2 years you're looking at a passport that gets you direct access into Russia, Japan, Brazil. A lot of people think it's a weak passport. I think it's a fairly interesting passport when you're talking about when you have covered your basic necessities and you're getting into the more exotic range. Then it doesn't hurt to add the Dominican Republic to the tally. Well, I hope you enjoyed this coverage. If you did, give me a thumbs up, make sure you're subbed, and catch you in the next one.